Politicians not. People who are elected by us. What? Our representatives, our sons, our father, our mother. Now they have stolen so much, it is much more than what Britishers have taken. And not only that, they agree that it is stolen and they also decide that it should not be brought back. We will not strive to bring it back. That is also a decision. So what further can you expect in a society like this? At the same time, your nobility cannot wait. Become noble, become gentle, become great, become enriched in this admixed society that is around you. So let the society be anything. You must be excellent and skilled in a manner that you will become enriched every time by your interaction. So spirituality is a great art and process of excellence which allows you to live in any given situation without blaming the situation. Let people around you be very wretched. Even then, you should become virtuous and great, and that is possible. These are the standards for it. Ahetuka daya sindhuhu bandhuhu anamatam sadam. Shotriyo vrajino akamahato yo brahmavittamaha brahmanyuparatasyanto nirindhanaivanalaha ahetukadaya sindhuhu bandhuranamatam sadam. I spoke about a seeker definitely at almost the final point of his seeking, going to a Sadguru and seeking the right instruction and guidance for pursuing his seeking further to the desired goal. And who is that Guru? How is he like? That was the description that we gave yesterday. Now, going to such a Guru, what should the disciple do? That is what Shankara and Vivekachoodamani say in this verse. Tamaradhya gurum bhaktya prahva prashraya sevanaihi prasannam tamanuprapya prechetnyatavyamaatmanah tam aradhya gurum bhaktya prahva prashraya sevanaihi. Whenever you go to a Mahatma, actually one who is spiritually enlightened, fulfilled, in reality he should become a Jivan Mukta, a Brahmavittama. Whenever you go to him, what exactly will you do there? You go there as a seeker of truth. That means you don't know anything. You have an idea that I want to know the supreme truth. I am a seeker of it. As a seeker, maybe you have made some independent efforts. Those efforts are not found to be fructifying, fulfilling. Therefore, understanding that the whole subject cannot be handled by you, yourself, alone, you decide to go to the Guru. That means you are a zero. And now you want to become an enlightened hero. So from the zero position, when you go to a Guru, what should be your attitude? I think it is very simple. Tam aradhya. You have to worship, adore that person. It is that adoring spirit that makes you humble and intensify your seeking. Whenever you have to get something from another person, you feel that the other person has it and I don't have it. So all your attention should be to receive and to get whatever he is prepared to give. You cannot extract the knowledge from anybody. It has to overflow from the giver. And that overflowing will take place only when he feels that here is a seeker who is quite humble, persistent, and who is yearning enough. I shall let him know what is the truth because he is a very good, well-deserved disciple and a seeker. That feeling the Guru should have. How will he have it? Suppose you hold your head. I don't think he will ever be interested in teaching you. He should have a feeling, a spontaneity in him, by virtue of which he feels like opening his heart and telling you whatever is there in him as a treasure. So, tam aradhya. The word aradhana is very important. Generally we use this word worship with regard to God. We worship God. Everybody. Irrespective of his position, his knowledge, his understanding, his wealth, his competence, when it comes to God, he becomes a seeker and a worshipper. Now we are generally worshipping an imperceptible, invisible God. Not only that, I would like to emphasize that we are worshipping an infinitely distant God. Whenever we have an idea of God, God is pervading everywhere in the universe. The universe is endless and infinite. Naturally, our God also is infinite. Now, if God is infinite, how can you think of Him? How can you approach Him? So He remains invisible and infinitely distant. Such a God we are worshipping. We are worshipping is true. But whether my worship is really reaching God and the worshipped God is happy about what I do, does He have anything to tell me from His side? Am I right? Are there any improvements to be made in me? These points are always hazy. You never get an opportunity to see God in person so that you will understand what God feels about you. So it's always, as I say, a unilateral approach and an effort. Here it is different. The entire attention is turned from God, so to say, to the Guru. If from God you could achieve whatever you want, then I don't think there is any necessity for going to a Guru. Because he is impersonal, he is invisible, and he is infinitely distant. From such a source, you will never have an interaction. It can never be a bilateral pursuit. When you go to the Guru, it becomes entirely different. So the object or the subject of attention turns from God to the Guru. And the whole aradhana will be of the Guru, towards the Guru, about and around the Guru. So he has to do aradhana, tam aradhya, gurum bhaktya, with devotion. Whatever devotion you generally or ordinarily devotees have towards God, with the same intensity, wholesomeness, fullness of devotion, prahva prashraya sevanaihi. There is a difference between worshipping God and worshipping the Guru. God remains always invisible. He has no form. You cannot interact with Him. But Guru is a human form. Only when he becomes a human, he will be able to humanly interact with you, humanly communicate with you. Suppose he remains a tiger and you are a human. Do you think a tiger God can teach you? A lion God cannot teach you. He has to be a human God. So the entire worship turns towards him. Bhaktya. And what are the processes of worship? Are you going to use flowers? Are you going to do big pudding, etc.? Are you preparing? No. These are entirely different. Prakhva, prashraya, sevanaihi. 3 words he has put. Prakhva, prashraya, sevanaihi. Say that. Prakhva, prashraya, sevanaihi. Prakhva. pra. बोलिए ना ठीक.
प्रह्वा
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 प्रश्रय
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 सेवनैः
सेवनैः
प्रह्वा प्रश्रय सेवनैः. The word,
प्रश्रय सेवनैः.
first of all, you prostrate before him. This prostration is a kind of a cultural refinement, perhaps, that we alone have in this world. See, a society can evolve its own cultural levels, cultural standards. Whenever we speak of culture, many of you do not know. When I thought of giving shape to FRNV, Foundation for the Restoration of National Values, I was wanting to make people understand it is not a religious or a spiritual movement. It is a purely cultural movement. Culture is acceptable to God. There may be a religious society, but the society need not be cultural. It may not be cultured. In our own homes you will find, suppose there is a family consisting of 5 or 6 members, all of them may not be equally cultured. So that cultural refinement is something very, very selective in nature. Any society need not necessarily be cultured. And culture is evolved not in a matter of days, months, years or even decades. What is the meaning of culture? I would like you to understand. I hope I will be able to say it. Art and other manifestations. Art and other manifestations of the intellectual achievement of a people regarded collectively, this is called culture. What do you understand by this? Whenever there is a culture, understand that it is an intellectual achievement. It is not a sensory achievement. It is not a drill. You cannot have it from a gymnasium. Certainly not. There are so many different items of sport events held for Olympics, Commonwealth Games, Asia Games, etc. All this does not come under the so-called intellectual achievement. There is also intellectual achievement because all the sports items will have to be thought over, and what should be decided as the best performance, there you will have to use your intelligence. But here it is primarily about character, behavior, interaction. Character, behavior and interaction. Character is something inward. It is a constant coordinate in a human. Behavior is something visible and external. And interaction is always something like interpersonal or yourself and the rest of the world. Now whatever refinement, whatever sublimity, whatever standard, whatever attunement, whatever adorability, whatever appreciable can be administered into this, that is called culture. So in the matter of culture, there cannot be an option at all. You cannot say it is religious. You cannot say it is spiritual. Of course, spirituality is always one of refinement. Art and other manifestations of the intellectual achievement of a society regarded collectively. It is not that somebody says this is culture. The society must really appreciate it, imbibe it, and make it as part of its own societal or social behavior. Then it becomes culture. This is where India stands unique. So prostration is something very unique and great. Even now there are people in India who question the art and the process of prostration. I had an email in the ashram where a lady writes to me very critically about what nonsense are you doing. You are sitting there, these are my words, not her words, majestically, and all the people are coming and prostrating before you, but you don't prostrate before anybody. So I told her something about what is this prostration, how this culture has come, etc. She has again written to me, Swamiji, it is all easy to say. You have learned prostrating before the elders, you say. Why don't you prostrate before those who come and prostrate before you? This is her final question. Am I asking anybody to prostrate? They feel like prostrating. Suppose they feel like giving me an article, what shall I do? Should I take it and throw it back on them? Suppose somebody says, Swamiji, I would like to speak to you. Courtesy demands what? I should listen to them. So, Swamiji, please be there. We would like to prostrate. Some people say that also. They also say, please turn this side so that I can prostrate in the eastern direction. So, I will have to turn in the manner they want. Such people also are there. Swamiji, you stand here so that... Now, whether I should prostrate before them, okay, I feel like prostrating. But do you mean to say the people who prostrate before me will accept the prostration and will they be happy? I don't know, you have to say. We are prostrating before a stone, before a picture. The picture doesn't want. It doesn't understand also. So we are prostrating before. Any exercise done by anybody in this world is not for the gadgets he uses with. It's always for himself. If you prostrate, it is primarily and ultimately meant for benefiting you, enriching you, not for any other purpose. When you eat food, for whose sake are you eating food? For the sake of food articles and plates and spoons? Any act of ours is primarily and ultimately meant to enrich the actor, not anybody else. Suppose you hold money. Is it for the benefit of money or your own benefit? So the first item is prostration. What is this prostration? It is something very interesting to know. You can think about. Physically, it is health giving. We are always erect. Except in the hours of sleep, we are never. Even there, we want our head to be a little raised with a pillow. Our heart is here. The brain has to be given blood, and that circulation is pumping up. That is why the head is very small. See, pumping upward is always difficult than pumping downward. So when you prostrate, you will find the blood in the system, in the whole body, it goes to the head, and there is a brain bath taking place. The usual bath that you take with water, it is only for the scalp, the hair, that's all. Now here is a brain bath. If you prostrate every day, not before anybody, yourself on the ground, at least 12 times you will find you will be much more intelligent than otherwise. I tell the executives and also the students, whatever you want to learn and understand in 1 hour, I think you can do it in 40 minutes, if not 30 minutes. It is such an important matter. After prostrating about 12 times or so, whatever you were reading, you get up and start reading it. You could not understand it well. You will understand it much better. The reception will be more. Sensitiveness will be more. I would like to know, we are interacting with this world. This interaction, where does it take place, you tell me? When I am walking, is the interaction taking place at my foot level, feet level, or the ground level, or it takes place in the brain level? I am seeing. Seeing is done by the eyes, but the actual interaction in the brain, there is a stimulus generated to open the eyes and focus in the direction you want. And then while you are seeing, the seen things or being seen things, they are getting registered in the brain. So what is that receptional point in us? It is the head or the feet or the stomach. There are doctors also here. Now when you prostrate before anybody, it means that you are prepared to receive whatever he gives. And it enters through the head, not through the feet. And when you prostrate, it clearly indicates that I am not going to resist what you say. I am not going to attack you or assault you. I am very humble. I am prepared to receive whatever you are saying. How to make the other man know? How to make the other party know that you are ready to receive whatever he says? You are not a rebellious student. You are really a seeker who will always try to, just like a blotting paper, whatever the Guru says, he will be able to take. See, I have been talking to you for the past 56 years. If you have heard me, many of you have heard me, may not be all, for all the 56 years. I have been coming here for 47 years now. I think there are people here who have been hearing me for 40 years. If 40 years you have been listening to me, how much of information and knowledge you must have got? But have you had it? Did you take it properly? Was it registered in your brain? Were you guided by what you heard? These are very, very important questions. So the disciple indicates that I am fully yours. I am prepared to receive whatever you say without any resistance. I am very much attuned to whatever you say. I will not quarrel with you. I will not fight with you. I will not ask an unnecessary question. A question is asked for knowing. Some questions are asked to demonstrate that the questioner is intelligent. Such questions also are there. One man came to me and he asked me, Swamiji, what is the purpose of life? He was a professor of the Delhi University. So I was very much excited and I became ecstatic. This question and the manner in which he came. So I suddenly burst into a level of ecstasy and I said, purpose of life. You are asking me what is the purpose of life. Tell me, where are you standing? He said, I am standing on the floor of this house. Where is this house? Then he said, it is in Old Delhi. Where is this Old Delhi? He was not able to answer me. He should answer as a professor. Where is Old Delhi? Then I supplemented. It is in the subcontinent of India. Where is the subcontinent of India? I started asking him. One question after the other I asked. He was not able to answer me. Where is India? India is in the planet Earth. And where is this Earth? This Earth is in space. Where is this space? This is a very legitimate inquiry. You are not taking it up. Where is the space? So we went up to that level. Now you see everything. You are a denizen of this Earth. And the Earth is a very microscopic planet in the whole hierarchy of planets and heavenly bodies in the universe. Everything I agree. The Earth goes on revolving in its axis and it has its trajectory around the sun. Similarly, all the planets and heavenly bodies are moving and moving. On the Earth you will find plants, creepers, trees. There are beasts, animals, birds, reptiles. All these things are there. Tell me, what is the purpose of the Earth? And what is the purpose of the universe? The trees do not make such an inquiry. But they bear their seasonal flowers and fruits. The rivers are flowing, the clouds are shedding. The earth has never inquired about what is the purpose of my revolution. And being a son of the earth, how is it that you are asking? So the purpose of life is what? You are a human. And as a human, you express yourself with human faculties. In the sensory level, sensory expressions. Oral level, oral expressions. Mental level, mental expressions. In the intelligence level, intellectual expressions. And like that, you express yourselves just like anybody else will do. As long as you take food, it will be converted in the form of nourishment. It will be converted into blood. That will give you energy. The energy has to be expended. So you become active and interactive. Again you are feeling hungry. Like that, let the whole process of natural expression go on. As is the case with earth, as is the case with Mother Nature, as is the case with space, all the other things. This is the purpose of life. Live in harmony with nature, live in harmony with yourselves, and have a sense of fulfillment in doing whatever is possible to be done. I don't exactly remember what I answered him. By and large, this is it. He started rolling his eyes and said, he said, in the whole of my life, I have not prostrated before anybody except my father, but I am going to prostrate before you. Announcing that his prostration was very costly and rare. A professor, can you imagine? I have not prostrated before anybody except my father. Now I am going to prostrate before you. Please yourself. Now this prostration, do you mean to say I wanted it? And even in so doing I find there is an inadequacy and lack of humility. Because this introduction vitiates the whole prostration. And by so doing, who is at a disadvantage? I, whom he prostrate, I am at a disadvantage. Or he himself who prostrates. Why are you keeping quiet? He is prostrating, but that can also be done in a noble, cultured and refined manner. You know, people will come and prostrate. Look at all of them. You will find various kinds of prostration. In that act, you can find a lot of refinement. You can study the whole person. So the first item is prostration. This is a great culture of India.